Hey everybody, thanks for coming to the March content batching party. Popping in a few minutes early as we see you guys trickling on in, and wanted to introduce myself if you haven't been to one before. I'm Megan, I'm one of the onboarding coaches here at Edgar, and I run these with the help of one of my colleagues, Maura, who's gonna be in the chat today. So as you're kind of trickling on in, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, what kind of business you're in. So the chat is over to your right. If you can just say hi to us, let us know that you can hear us okay, and share kind of what business you're in and kind of what you're hoping to learn today. We'd love to get this started just and get to know who's here so we can kind of tailor the content to everybody's needs. Hey Tracy, what's up? Ooh, a social media manager as well. Awesome. In good hands here. Hey Jerry. Hopefully you guys are staying nice and warm. I'm in Denver, Colorado right now, and it is a snowpocalypse. So much blizzarding happening here. Ooh, another VP of marketing. Hey, Christina, thanks for coming today. Cool. Like I said, definitely keep this chat going. Utah, yeah, Jerry, I bet we're having that same storm going on. As we kind of get more people and wait for everyone to join, definitely know that you can ask questions in this chat at any time. Like I said, Maura will be taking a peek at it. I'll try to be looking at it as well. So if your question doesn't get answered by one of us, if we miss it at all, feel free to post it again, and we'll stay around at the end in order to get a lot of the Q&A going and do some hands-on stuff with Edgar. So definitely stick around for that. And like I said, keep the questions coming. We're going to be monitoring the chat throughout it. Cool. Lots of business and community managers here. That's really exciting. Feel free to share your social media handles in here. Share your Twitter accounts, share your Instagram handles. We'd love to make this a community building activity each month. And if you can get some help from others within your industry, it can be a really cool thing to connect with each other, see the experiments people are trying out online, be each other's accountability partners to make sure that we're staying on track with our batching, that our social media is going really well. And just as I mentioned, as solopreneurs, as small business owners, it can kind of be a lonely world as we're working out there. So we'd love, again, for you guys to share your handles if you're comfortable with it so that we can just get this community going a little bit stronger. Ooh, real estate. That sounds really fun, Caitlin. Cool. Florida. Ooh, definitely jealous of your weather right now. Photographer, very cool. That'll be exciting for the Instagram portion, especially Tammy. Oh, Sharon, hey, an author, super fun. What kind of books do you work on, Sharon? Ooh, from the Bahamas. Angelica, you're making us all jealous now. Oh, Christine from Germany, very cool. I actually grew up in southern Germany. My dad was in the military, so definitely one of my favorite countries. Thanks for coming today. It must be evening time for you there. All right, a podcaster and blogger, very cool. Ooh, Vancouver, Canada. We've got a couple of people who work for Edgar who live in Vancouver. That's super exciting. Thanks for sharing those handles. Let's see, what do you got? Cooking, a cool kids cook. Oh, fun. I'm going to definitely check that out after the webinar today. That sounds really fun. Cool. All right, well, it is coming up on noon Mountain Time, which means it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific. So we're going to jump on in here and get started. As I mentioned, keep the chat going. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what kind of questions you have throughout this. And we'll go ahead and get on with the slides today. So how this is going to work is I'm going to share just some general kind of specifics on content batching. Last time we did go over quite a bit more specifics, and every time we're going to try to get a little bit more niche around different tactics you can use, because obviously not everyone is going to have the same workflows that work for them. So I'll link the past webinar in here, and you can go back and you can watch that one to get a little bit more of a history on kind of why we're doing these each month. But like I said, we're going to kind of come on in here and we're going to go over just some sort of theories around why batching makes your work more efficient. And then we'll go into some more hands-on loading of your content and get some ideas. So as you're doing this, hopefully you got that pre-webinar checklist as well. If you didn't yet get that pre-webinar checklist, I will go ahead and share that with you guys too. But I'm going to share some slides here real quick. So a little interruption as we start to get this going. Cool. So we'll go ahead and get these going. Hopefully those are coming through okay. Looks like it. All right, yeah, so there will be a replay, Angelica, if you do have to go. There'll be a replay sent out automatically, but if you don't get it, just email support@meetedgar.com, and we're more than happy to give that to you at any time. They'll also be up on our YouTube channel at any time, so you can most definitely go out and get that. Like I said, we'll go ahead and share last times in these comments as well, so you can go back and get a little bit of history there. So as we are going throughout this section here, I wanted to first give you that checklist that we created. This should have come to you in your webinar reminder email, but I'm going to put it in the chat here in a couple of minutes. And if you haven't got this yet, it's just a really helpful thing to kind of segment out what we're going to be talking about. So you can follow along with this, use it afterwards. You'll notice there's that last section of the post-webinar checklist just to keep yourself accountable and on track. And even in this crazy technology world, I know I'm kind of a paper and pencil kind of girl when it comes down to it. So hopefully this will help you out. One other thing we're going to share as we wait for the last few people to trickle on in here is our getting started with Edgar guide. So if you are new to Edgar, this is really, really helpful in order to kind of get your hands around the new software. I know learning new software is never any fun, but hopefully this guide can help get you a little bit more about why behind using an automation tool is so helpful. So guys, this content batching party, like I said, we're doing it monthly. And this is just this idea that we want to make sure that the work you're spending is work that is really valuable. And it's not just you going from activity to activity in your day, but your social media posts aren't getting lost in all of that craziness that's going on. Because if you're trying to do too many types of work in the same day, you're making it really hard on yourself. So we want to simplify this with a process called batching. So this is basically the coming out of this idea that if you're task switching throughout the day, it takes about 20 minutes to onboard yourself into a new task. So if you're batching your tasks, you're going to be able to save yourself a ton of time by not task switching back and forth. And a lot of the time you might be saying, well, that's not me. I don't multitask. I don't have a problem with that. But it's not something that is just multitasking. It's really taking like activities, grouping them together, and doing them at the same time. So you can get into what we call a flow state with your work, and your entire marketing strategy, your entire creative can work together so much stronger. So as you're kind of thinking about the types of activities and as you're looking at your day that's going to work really well, I want you to also think how you can get these to batch out on your calendar in something called content blocking. So I know probably a lot of you use Google Calendars. So having that sort of flow like it says here, with these blocks can be really helpful in accomplishing this. And you don't kind of have that idea of like, oh, where did all my time go? Why did I get to the end of the day and nothing seems to be accomplished like I wanted it to? So think about the ways that you can group like activities into these blocks throughout your day. We also want you to be really self-aware. You know, when you're working remotely, it's easy to get bogged down by interruptions. It's really easy that you can just kind of ignore the problem and not realize that there's time to be set aside to get into this deep work and flow state. And then you want to kind of think about batching like brushing your teeth. It's this default that you set every day. If you block those calendar times off, it's not a choice. You don't have to use your willpower in order to stay on task. What you're going to do is just think of it as that next default in your day. And again, we know as small business owners, things get busy, you get pulled in all directions. So having the self-awareness of what activities are going to be protected by those blocks on your calendar can add so much time to your day. And the more self-awareness you take to understand why I am not forming these new habits in order to be more efficient, the better it is that you'll be able to follow through and actually create these batching habits. So I would suggest taking some time to do a little self-assessment after this webinar to kind of think to yourself, you know, why am I task switching so much? What's stopping me from forming this new habit? Is it your self-doubt that maybe you've tried before and failed in the past? Is it a lack of motivation? Is it starting too big? Are you trying to make too big of a change in your life? Breaking things down and changing slowly can be really great sometimes. Is it your environment? Sometimes just getting out of your own environment can be huge. You know, going to a coffee coffee shop, a co-working space, stuff like that, so that you get rid of those distractions. So sit down, start thinking about how you can make this easier to your work schedule in order to incorporate these habits in. Going a little further here too, I want you to think about the self-assessment of examining your routines and schedules. Write out for a day how much time you're spending on all of these things. Write out your tasks. Communicate your new approach to your team so they're not left just thinking, oh, she's doing all these things differently. What's going on? And then tinker with all these methods that we've been going to be talking about month over month. Last time we talked about that one thing method. This month we're going to be talking about a couple different ones. So don't think that if you fail at one of them or if it's not providing a lot more, that it's not going to work for you. This is going to be a great thing for you to iterate on throughout the process. And last time we also talked a lot about that idea of protecting your new habits. And this is going to be really helpful for blocking out things on your calendar. If you get that last minute meeting someone asks you for, but it's during your blocking time, you have that on your calendar to say, you know what, I have an appointment. Can we do this some other time? So that as a solopreneur, you're not being pulled in all directions and you can actually get the work done on your business that's going to move things forward. So think about things, again, in your environment that you can change in order to batch this time out and protect it. Put your phone on airplane mode or do not disturb mode. Check Twitter only on your breaks. That batching can really help with this. If you do eliminate these kind of distractions from your batching time, and you'll notice that your work starts to feel much more calm and that your stress levels are going to go down. And even if you feel like you're not being responsive because this isn't your email time, but an important email comes in, that that's still going to add so much value to your work that you're doing now. Because if you're less responsive during that time, it means you're working on the stuff that really matters to your team. So again, changing your environment can really help you form these new habits as we go along here. And as you're getting proactive with changing these habits and getting things into a batching form, I always like to make sure that you guys have a why behind it. That's going to really help you get your habits stronger. So starting out with a why is something I like to call a highlight for your day. You want to start and finish with a highlight for your day. And I wanted to present this time a little differently than we did last time, because it's important to remember that when you have these habits and if things start to fall apart, your highlight becomes that beacon, that reminding point that you had a decision made that you wanted to make this plan happen. And when things start to get a little bit crazy in your business, go back to your highlight. You can mark it as your win for your day. And even if the rest of the day is crazy, you have that beacon knowing you got that accomplished. So you can create that environment that really supports this endless habit of not having to make these decisions about your time on the fly, but you've made them beforehand. Again, it's going to be really rewarding to be able to change your habits, to add balance and give awareness about why we're adopting these new behaviors. So the behavior that I wanted to talk about this time is one of my favorites, and it's called the Pomodoro Technique. So what this is you choose one task and you set 25 minutes. You can use like music, you can use a timer. There's a Chrome extension called Noisely that works really well for this. And what you do is you set it for 25 minutes. And you work on that task for 25 minutes uninterrupted. You put your phone away, you get it out of your sight, and you strictly work on that task. And then you get a 5-minute break when your timer rings, when your music goes off, when the Noisely app reminds you of that. And that 5 minutes then allows you to come on in and do some other things to take a break. So during that time, you're not tempted to go check social media. You're not tempted to go check your phone because you know your 5-minute break is coming up in order to do that. This also really is helpful in order to break tasks down. So thinking about if you have a task to create and it's going to produce something for more than 25 minutes, you want to break that task down into different sections. Our brains really focus in this 25-minute, 5-minute break so much better. And I always like to suggest during this break, a lot of the time we're going to reach for our phone and look at our phone, go onto Instagram, go onto Twitter. But I suggest maybe replacing where you usually set your phone with like a marketing book or an inspirational quote book or a note to remind you to go on a walk. So you can use these downtimes more productively, but they're still going to be refreshing to you. So think about, again, how you can change your environment in order to really establish this batching in a strong way and get this 5-minute environment going. If it works for you, it's a really great way to stay fresh during your day. So going along here a little bit more on tips about how to stay fresh. This first one here, we just chatted about replacing items like your phone, like Twitter, stuff like that, with something that's going to provide more value for your breaks. Sit down and do an assessment. Why are you switching tasks? Really look inside and say, is it because I'm bored with this? Is it because I'm not focusing on the right type of work during the day? A lot of the time we focus on that busy work, that stuff that's easy to get done really quickly at the beginning of the day, when really we should be having our creative space when our minds are a lot more freed up at this time. So think about the ways that you're kind of segmenting your time during the day and where your brain is going, so you can really assess what times a day you should be working on the different types of work when you are blocking out your schedule. There's an app called Moment that actually tracks the time on your phone. And they did a study that says the average person opens Instagram 58 times a day. And that's pretty insane. So if we can even cut down on that a little bit, it's a great way to give yourself some of that valuable time back so you can actually start to use it to refresh yourself, like I said, on a walk, reading a book, or doing things that are going to add value to your business. So as you start to think about how you're going to segment your day when you're batching, one question I find really helpful to ask is, what do I need to get done today before I can serve anyone else? And if you guys are willing to, I'd love for you to go ahead and pop your answer down into this chat over here so we can kind of be accountable to each other about how you can use this batching time. Ryan, we will be going into the Edgar platform in a few minutes here. We're just kind of doing this batching as people are getting ready and kind of presenting the ideas. So we will go in there. So if you have questions about specifics in Edgar, go ahead and pop them in here, and we will go ahead and get those answered for you. Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. So pop your answer in here as well. What is the one thing you want to get done today before you can serve anyone else, before you can answer those emails, before you get back to those chats on Twitter, and really hold yourself accountable for the rest of the day after this webinar to focus on that before your distractions are being pulled from you. Ooh, sorry about that. I want you to also think, as we're adding our updates in here, about the people you want to serve. So as we start to develop our content, you want to have a lens in order to develop it in a really consistent way. So you want to have your avatar. Who are the people you serve? What's the problem you want to solve for them? What values do you hold for them? And what goals do you want to reach with your posts? Having these in all of the same ways are really, really great, because every status update we write today is going to be really consistent and on brand to your brand guidelines. It's going to have your tone of your brand, your voice, stuff like that. So think about these questions here as you start to develop your updates. And when I speak about updates and avatars and speaking to one person, as we write our updates, a lot of the time people are saying, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to post. What you're really saying when you say this is you don't know who your avatar is. You don't know who you're speaking to. And that's because if you have that avatar, if you have that one person who's really valuable, that your product or service can add value to, that is going to create endless opportunities in order for you to rebatch your content in different ways, speak right to them, become an expert to them. All of this stuff that's going to be really helpful in order to know who you're speaking to, so that you can have this personal and purposeful connection to make your updates resonate that much more. And as we start to talk about being an expert in your industry, some questions that you can start asking yourself also is, what do you see people in your niche asking? So go onto other pages that are related to your industry, see what they're asking. If you have a whole lot of blog posts in the back, see which one of those are your most popular. What kind of challenges have you faced in your business, to share those stories online, to get that behind the scenes content, all of that really great stuff. Is there something you get asked a lot and that answer comes really easy to you? These are all things that you are an expert in. So if you're kind of struggling getting your brand started, look at these questions and really develop a sense of confidence that you have what it takes to be seen as an expert. And even if there's a ton of competition out there in your industry, what's going to be really helpful is thinking about how you're different from them, you're unique from them in the way that your story is different from everyone else's. So as we go into this more, I want you to identify one piece of content that we can split up today into different areas. As we're starting to load content, what's your main piece of content, your lead magnet that really is going to provide value to people? What products and pages and articles are people visiting most on your blog? You want to create more content to dial in on the language that people are resonating with on this lead magnet. And that's going to be your offer, tuning into the needs of the people, things that you want to provide to them, and really listening to your community. So identify maybe your one blog post so we can start to upcycle it. And upcycling starts with a system of identifying that one thing so that you can create 10 status updates from it. Something I like to suggest doing is having a strategy around this. And I'm going to share my screen real quick to show you an example of how you can do this with Trello. So one thing that you could do is identify that blog post, that lead magnet, and make a Trello card out of it. So if you guys don't have Trello yet, it's a great tool just to keep organized. And something I suggest doing is coming into Trello, putting your new blog post, putting your lead magnet in a card, and then going ahead and making a checklist out of it. So it's out of this idea that you have a seed, sprout, pollinate with your strongest content. And that means your seed content is going to be that really strong content that's going to be your initial blog post or your initial PDF download. Your sprout is going to be what other pieces of content can you get from that one piece of content. And then the pollinate is going to be where are you distributing it? How many times can you get it out in the package on social media? And in Trello, you can make a checklist here. So thinking about like one blog post, what can you do with that one blog post? You could make a 15-second video for an Instagram story. You can make a 60-second value-added video to summarize the key takeaways and actions from that. You can make a text-only tip from things on Canva. You can generate 10 different headlines in order to add those as variations. You can add in a behind-the-scenes comment about what struggles you came upon while creating that content. You can ask a question about how your followers feel about it. You can make a slide share activity. You can make an infographic out of it. And all of these can become checklists here on your Trello card. And it's really helpful in order for you to, again, make sure you're getting the most out of that one piece of content so you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. So going back here into the presentation, we'll get into the Edgar part a little bit more. I know you guys have been asking about that a little bit. And when you're getting creative with all of this batching and everything here, I want you to think about how you can create some variations around your posts too. So in Edgar, we do have a variations feature, and I'll show you that in a minute. And why this is helpful is that seed, sprout, pollinate we were just looking at. It's thinking about how people are on a different buyer's journey. Some people are in the awareness phase where they're just getting started, kind of researching different products within your industry or service. Other people are ready to buy right away. So if you're constantly experimenting with the language you're using, you never know when it's going to resonate with someone at that time that they're ready to buy. And if they are just in that nurture awareness phase, social media is a great way that you can kind of make sure your brand is top of mind for them. So when it does come time for them to buy, you are seen as the expert and go-to person. So I'm going to share my screen and show you how that works right now again. And when you click to add content, if you guys wanted to go ahead and open up your Edgar account here to start loading content with us, you're more than welcome to. But in an Edgar account, when you click to add new content here, our variations feature is in this presentation screen here, right under the text box. So this feature was built mostly for Twitter, but it can be used for any network in order to add some authenticity and to add some fun to your postings. So what you're going to do is you're going to write your update. And when you click this add variation button here, a second text box pops up that allows you to alter your update. And what's going to happen is for Twitter, Edgar has everything set up in order to expire this first update once it's sent out. And that's just because their terms of service says you can't send the same tweet to the same Twitter account more than once. So when this entire post is up in the rotation of your posts, the second variation is going to be the one that's shared. And this is really valuable, again, because only about 10% of people ever see anything you post on social media. So if we can reshare our evergreen content, if we can make sure our links are driving more traffic back to it at a time when people need that information and need that value from you, it's really a strong strategy to take. So you can add these variations in manually, like I said here. You can add a photo to variations as well with this little icon in the lower left corner. If you do add a photo with your variations, that same photo will send every time your variation is up in the rotation of your posts, but the different text will share with it. So again, it stays in line with Twitter's terms of service, and it also helps you get some really valuable information about your community in your history tab, which we'll look at in 1 minute. I want to real quick actually show you another thing variations is cool for, and that's our auto-generate variations feature. So if you're creating variations in Edgar, you can also auto-generate them if you have a URL in here. So you'll notice you get this auto-generate button pop up. And when I click this, Edgar's going to automatically pull 5 different pull quotes from within that article to add as a variation for you. So a great way to get more efficient. And a great way, again, to be able to reshare that same post on Twitter, or to be able to see what language is really resonating with different people. And the way you're going to see that in Edgar is in your history tab here. So your history tab is just everything that Edgar has posted. It's a list for you. You can sort your history by category or by social network. All of this information in here is really valuable in order to inform your schedule, as well as in order to inform your language. And what I like to do here is you'll notice you have this all times click button at the top. If I click on this all times click button here, it's going to sort my history to show me which items in here have received the most click-throughs, so your click-through rate. And from here, this helps you understand, okay, what type of information is my community really hungry for? What are they clicking on the most? But beyond that, if I want to dial in further, I can click on this View Performance History button, at which point it's going to take me in and show me a graph of when those clicks occurred. And it's going to also rank your variations, which is awesome here. So you can see variation 2 of this post got the most clicks, and variation 4 got the least clicks. So what I want to do from here is start looking at, number 1, what time did the variation 2 get sent? I can scroll down here, locate variation 2. Okay, it was sent at 6 a.m. Wow, my community has a lot of time on their hands in the morning in order to read. Maybe I should alter my schedule in order to provide them blog posts in the morning. What I can also do is, variation 4 didn't get a lot of clicks. I might be thinking, maybe the language that I used, or maybe the time of day that I sent this wasn't the best. So I can dial in further. I can go ahead and see what variation 4 was, make sure that I'm not using language like that in the future, or make sure that I'm seeing when variation 4 was sent out, seeing what times a day people are clicking the most. So again, to get to that, it's in your history tab. You can sort your history by all-time clicks up here, and then you can dial in a little bit deeper with this View Performance History so that the future variations you're creating are really strong. Now, we do email you when your variations get low in a certain category, but one workflow I like to suggest following is here in your library. If you go to your library, you can sort it by the social network of Twitter with this filter over here on the left, and you can also go to this Has Publishable Variations drop-down menu. And if you click on No, it's going to go ahead and sort your library to show you all of the posts that are completely expired. So you can see 2 of 2 variations expired. If I'd like to get this back into my rotation, I can just click on Edit here, and I can add in some more variations. And that way, when this post comes up in the rotation on your schedule, Edgar will have those variations to send out. Now, I noticed someone was asking about the schedule. So before we hop back into the slides, just to clarify how the schedule is working, Edgar's schedule works in a last in, first out order. So that means Edgar goes along here. He's going to hit this category on the schedule. The most recent update you added to that category will be the first one to send out. Edgar's then going to put it to the end of the line in the category and move along. Next time he hits that category, he's going to send the next update, put it to the end of the line and move along. And he's going to work his way through all of the different updates within that category. Once he's reached the bottom and there's no new updates, that's when Edgar's going to start from the top again, resurfacing your content for your new followers or those who didn't see it the first time, so they have the opportunity to get that value from you. The variations work in the same way as well. They're not going to post back to back. Don't worry about that. They're going to post in the last in, first out order per variation. So when the whole post is up in the rotation again, that last variation, so the most recent variation you added, will be the first to send out, and then it'll expire for Twitter, or it'll go back into the rotation for Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. So hopefully that makes sense there. Another thing that the schedule is really great for, again, is making sure you have variety in your updates. So, you know, if you're sending out blog content in the morning sometimes, we suggest thinking about sending it out in the evening, maybe on a different day during the week, just thinking about people's consumption habits being so different on social media. And you want to make sure they're seeing a variety of your different status updates to give them a reason to keep following you. So that's a little bit there. Hopefully that made sense. If you do have more questions, definitely let us know and we can bump back into the schedule in a second here. So we'll get to the slides real quick again. Cool. We got some questions, it looks like, over here. Will Twitter resend after a period of time has expired? No, Dan. So they do have a term of service that says you can't send the same tweet to the same Twitter account more than once anymore. So it doesn't matter like within that time frame at all. I'm going to go ahead and get you our blog post right here and put it in the chat. So that blog post I just shared right there will outline the rules, so it doesn't matter on a time frame. So if you did want to reshare something, it's not going to unexpire. You just have to add more variations. There's no limit on the variations, so you most definitely can go ahead and add more at any time. Cool. Kaylin, what do we have? What if a post is time sensitive? Good question. So we do have a way to get time sensitive posts in there too, Kaylin. Let me show you that real quick here. What that is going to be scheduled on is in the post level itself. So if you're in your Edgar account and you click to add content, you'll notice that you have a couple of options here. One is going to be this advanced settings drop-down menu. So if I click this advanced settings drop-down menu, what I can do is mark a post as use once. And that means once Edgar sends it out, he's going to automatically expire it for all of the social networks. And then what you're going to want to do, if it's like a holiday post, is use this little drop down right here. And you're going to click Schedule, Send, and Save. So next to the Save to Library button, use this arrow, click on Schedule, Send, and Save, and place the day and time you'd like Edgar to send this out at. If these text boxes here are populated, Edgar will hold this post out of the rotation, and he's going to post it out on the day and time that you put in here to what networks you've attached over here. If use once here is checked, he'll then automatically expire it. So great for holidays, great for one-day promotions, stuff like that. If you don't check use once and you use this schedule, send, and save, after Edgar sends it the first time on the day and time you put here, he's going to put it to the end of the line in whatever category you've assigned it to, at which point it'll go back into the rotation based on your schedule. One other great seasonal thing that you can do is you can actually create seasonal categories in order to achieve this if you have content you want to be repeated over a couple of weeks. So in your categories tab, what you can do here is you can click on add new category. When you're doing this, make sure to uncheck this checkbox right here that says include when selecting random content to post. Go ahead and name the category like New Year's promo, holiday posts, summertime, stuff like that. You can then load all of your content into that category in Edgar. You can start loading it at any time of year, and Edgar will hold those posts in the library. But as long as you don't put that category anywhere on your schedule, he's not going to send those updates out. So it's a really great way if you're running a lot of blogs that you only want to send out in the summer, if you're running a webinar promotion for like a month before the webinar, You can have all of that content recycle through and still get the great evergreen effect of driving more traffic by just popping that category onto your schedule here, letting it run through. Once the season is over or once the promotion is over, come back in, click into it, delete that category from this delete button. And again, those posts will live in your library till the next season rolls around or till you want to use them again. So the flexibility in Edgar is pretty great in the fact that you can always do things with seasonal, but you can also always know that if you don't have time to add content one week, Edgar will still start to recycle through your older content. Great questions. Keep them coming. Cool. So looks like Maura got most of them. Definitely if we missed any, definitely let us know there. So I want you to think about ways you can experiment with the copy you're putting out there. Like I said, these variations are really valuable if you use them in conjunction with the history tab to get all of that great information. Guys, my laptop stand fell over. Sorry about that little crash there. Cool. So I wanted to give some examples of variations too. And as I'm going throughout this, definitely start brainstorming for yourself, jot some notes down about how you can vary things. So one thing you can do is think about how you can rephrase what you're saying. When you're telling the same story to your mom and to your best friend, it's likely you're going to tell them different details. You're going to say it differently. And that's true for social media as well. Your communities, while they are the kind of a similar tribe, they do also have some different types of people within them. And having these variations have different language and different ways you're telling the story can be really, really helpful. So think about how you can rephrase what you're saying. You can see over here that Darren Rose, who's a really awesome copywriter, went ahead and put the same post to his same blog post. But you can see he's asking a question and he's calling out someone. He's calling out some tendencies that people are going to resonate with differently in each of them. So again, thinking about ways you can rephrase it will not only help you get to know your community better, but it'll also give you more variations to share on Twitter. Other ways you can create variations is thinking about how that same blog post could be shared as a link, which will create a Twitter card on Twitter. Or you could share it along with a static photo with a different type of heading. So you can see here, this is something Edgar did on this post. We shared it as a link so people could click through. And then we also shared it with a static image that just had some of the facts with it so people could just skim it. And if they didn't have time to actually click through, they could still get all of that valuable information right there on Twitter. So think about ways that you can make posts more skimmable as well as clickable to drive your traffic when adding in your variations. Other ways you can do it is to pull out pull quotes from within that article. You can see BuzzFeed doing that here. It's the same tweet. It's shared a couple of times, but they've had different kind of gems from within that article repurposed as their status updates. And that's kind of what the auto variations that we looked at before was showing. So even though it's the same link, it's sharing a different message in each one. So think about how you can quote that article as variations. The other thing I like to say in variations is not always giving away all of the value. We want to make sure that we're adding a little curiosity and a little mystery, because when it comes down to it, we do want that click-through rate from social media. So you want to embrace this curiosity factor and thinking about how you can entice people to want to learn more. As humans, our brains are hardwired in order to want to fill that curiosity gap. So if you're telling someone you have information that they don't know, it's kind of the biggest click-through incentive for them to be able to click on it and get that information from you. So when you're whipping these up, definitely think about the level of specificity that you're providing. We want you to add value to your followers, but also to get that curiosity peaked so people are clicking through. Cool. What do we have here? A couple of questions. All right, Nina, if you can actually email support@meetedgar.com with the link to that post, we'd love to take a peek at it. Guys, if you were getting errors about abusive content on Facebook, there was a bug on Monday with Facebook that was not sending image posts properly, but our developers have fixed that. So if that notification did come in before Monday, that's all been fixed up and those posts have been re-added to your queue. It was nothing that you did wrong on your end. It was just an API issue with Facebook. So if those notifications did come to you, that has been passed. If it's after Tuesday that you're seeing that, if you could email support@meetedgar.com with your email address that your account's under, we can definitely take a closer look. Cool. So going in further, focusing on different details. This one is something that we do all the time when we create variations. And that's, looking at one headline that you have and saying, the lesson we learned from this broadcast on Facebook Live is a blog post that we have. But other ways that we can generate different headlines and get more creative with it is thinking about repurposing this main effect. Some of your video stats might be misleading. That's a pretty curiosity-oriented status update. The majority of your views may come after your broadcast ends. Again, all of these things are speaking to the same core concept, but promoting them differently might catch someone's attention a little bit different. And then doing this not only helps you generate really great status updates, it also helps you get the best headline. So I suggest doing this before you even name your article, just because it'll allow you to brainstorm different headlines, get that strongest main headline, and then that time wasn't wasted because you can use these other headlines you brainstormed as status updates to reintroduce things with your variations. Tammy, so if you do add multiple photos to a post, it will go ahead and share that same photo or that same group of photos with each text variation. If you wanted to vary the photo, you would have to add the content as a whole new post. At this time, we don't have a way to kind of have a different photo go out with each variation. So yeah, if you do add multiple photos, it will share them all at once. So if you want one photo to go out, make it one photo per post. Sorry about that confusion. So adding in emotion and personality, guys, if you're looking at your lead magnet right now, if you're looking at your strongest driving blog posts right now, I want you to really ask yourself, if I saw this post, what would the next logical step I would take be? Ask yourself how you can help people imagine a better life with your product or service that they didn't know existed. And those are going to be really great emotional and personality posts in order to add those as status updates and variations. When it comes down to it, our emotional side of the buying process, it cares much more about benefits and experiences than it does about processes and features. So thinking about how you can do this is, if you're like a travel agency, it's really nice to be able to ask people questions about where their dream vacation is, stuff like that, rather than just telling them to buy a plane ticket. No one wants to go on, and if you're Orbitz and go through the process of buying a plane ticket, what you want to market is that experience of the vacation, that relaxation, that beautiful view you're going to get. So think about the ways you can emotionally get people to have that experiential that experience when they're reading your status updates, rather than just always talking about the features of your product or service. And you want to give people perspective too. You can really write a short paragraph with a teaser question at the end, and you can attach it to your blog post to kind of bring all of these concepts together, get that click-through rate, and get your lead magnet really out to people. So as you guys are going through here, hopefully you're jotting down kind of different headlines, stuff like that, so you can add them to Edgar. Definitely keep the questions coming, stuff like that. Can you schedule a shared content, particularly something that I found? So Tracy, links through Facebook, like Facebook links, don't work really well through their API. So if you're sending it through their API, it'll sometimes work, but typically they don't like seeing their same Facebook links. So if you did want to reshare something, what I suggest doing is finding the original piece of content, like if it's a blog post or a YouTube video or something like that. And then you can go ahead and tag the person who shared it, thanking them for introducing it to you. And I'll show you how you can tag in Edgar right now. If you are tagging in Edgar, a really great thing to be able to do is create community around that. So when I go into my Edgar account and I click to add new content here, If you'd like to tag on Twitter or Facebook, it does only have to be connected to that specific network. So it can't be connected to LinkedIn or Facebook. It can only be connected to Twitter. And then you can just start typing the @handle here, and a list will come up where you can select it, and you'll know that's the tag. So if you're doing this similar on Facebook, if you're doing this on Facebook here, you can find that like video out there. You can find that blog post that you'd like to share. You can tag the person like @MeetEdgar here. You can go ahead and let us know how much you appreciate finding that, stuff like that. And that's probably your best way of resharing content. So tagging works for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Currently, it doesn't work for LinkedIn. We are trying to get access to that. So hopefully it'll be on our roadmap soon. But remember, if you are tagging, just have it connected to one network as you're adding your status update in Edgar. Good questions. Keep them coming. Cool. All right. Susan, so hashtags. Hashtags, we don't have a hashtag finder, but you can go ahead and place hashtags in the content you're adding. And they'll send, they'll send to Twitter, they'll send to Instagram when your notifications come through, especially those two networks. Hashtags are huge because they are categorized that people do actually search them. So definitely thinking about how you can go ahead and add in specific hashtags within that content. You're just going to type them in. It'll go ahead and send out as a clickable hashtag on Twitter, and it'll go ahead and send to your notifications on Instagram for you to copy over to your Instagram account, and it works just the same way. So just add them in manually is the best way. Cool. So as you're starting to think about different status updates that you can add to Edgar, it can be really helpful to get a really inspirational statement behind your company or service to share out to people. WeWorks is one of my favorite here. They get this imagination going in the way that they're emotionally able to connect way better than you would think just an office building would be able to connect with people. And this is what social media magic is made of. Imagine a workplace where you can create a life. Imagine a workplace that's so much more than an office desks and infrastructure. Imagine a workplace built on your needs physically and digitally. How much cooler is that than saying, hey, we're a shared workspace? So think about the ways you can get some magic into your updates by actually creating these imagination statements around what your company does. Because it's great to share all your value-added posts, your blogs, everything like that. But it's also great to get this imagination going when it comes to getting that emotional side going. Cool. So as we go in here more, curated content. I love to make sure people are sharing curated content because it allows people to see that you're an expert in your industry, that no matter what, you are coming up with the best content for people. And they don't have to go out and search for themselves. So it's a huge value add. So on your pre-webinar checklist, we did give you that kind of goal of bringing 3 of your favorite industry blogs. And that's because we're going to go ahead and add those into Edgar. So if you can pop into your MeetEdgar account and go to this import tab. So when you're in MeetEdgar, let me share my screen so you can kind of see what that's about. So when you pop into Edgar here, on your upper navigation bar, there's this import tab. And this RSS feeds here is really great in order to add in those feeds. So for example, if I wanted to share the MeetEdgar blog posts, all I need to do is put our URL in there. You can go out and find your 3 favorite industry-specific blogs and place their URL in here. Click on Find RSS Feed, at which point you're going to go ahead and categorize these into a category you can create for them. You're going to go ahead and tell Edgar which accounts these have permission to go out to. And then you have 2 options here. One is to send these directly to your library, and the other is to send them to a pending content queue where you're able to go in and approve or reject them. So directly to your library means that when one of these comes over, it'll be the most recent post added to that category. So it'll be the first post to send out when Edgar hits that category on your schedule. So this is really great for your own blog or a blog that everything they put out you want to share with your followers. Otherwise, for the ones that you brought to the party today, I suggest sending them to your pending content queue. So what your pending content queue allows for is an approval process. So you can see in my library here that the pending content section is right next to the content section. And from here, none of these are actually going to send out until I do approve them into the library. So you can come into this pending content section. You can click approve if you find that it's going to be great value for your followers. You can reject it if you decide you don't want to share it. Or you can edit it if you wanted to add in some more variations, if you wanted to add in your unique approach or your unique kind of takeaway from this post, if you wanted to tag people in it, and then you can save it and approve it into your library. Guys, these RSS feeds are gold for not only automating getting things coming in, but also to, again, be able to share the most valuable industry-specific content with your community. So pop on into your accounts now, add in those 3 RSS feeds, check them off to your pending content queue, and once a week, make yourself a 10-minute block on your calendar and have that as your block to go in and approve or reject the content that you're adding there. So it's a really great way, again, to get a lot of content automated into Edgar. One other thing that can really help with curated content is, say you're out online one day just searching the web. Edgar has this really cool extension. So this is our blog, but this could be any blog that you're looking at. And if you click on this little MeetEdgar that you can see in my toolbar up here, if I click on this, the Add New Content screen will actually pop up here where I'm able to check off all of the accounts I want it to go to. I'm able to assign it to a category. You can see Edgar pre-populates the title and the URL in the text section here. And all you have to do is scroll down and you can save it to your library right from the blog. So you don't have to spend that time copying and pasting back and forth. So this is an awesome, awesome feature that I do recommend you guys try out. The Chrome extension is available in our Help Center. And actually, let me just go ahead and get that for you. And I'll put it into the chat here. Definitely go ahead and download this. It makes curated content a breeze with Edgar. It is right there. So you can go ahead and download it. It works best on Chrome, but it does work for Safari and Firefox as well. When you hit that, you can download the extension that's appropriate for the browser that you're using. So yeah, guys, curated content, great automation features in Edgar with the RSS feeds as well as with that extension. So definitely grab those and start adding some curated content in. Next, after you've added some curated content and you've done the work of repurposing and upcycling your specific lead magnet, I want you to think about how the other updates in your library can support each other with episodic content. And batching content really allows for you to come in and create some cliffhangers. You know, how can your business writing be as captivating as a novel that you're really making sure people want to come back and revisit your page? Because that's really what it's all about. We don't need 1 million followers. We want followers who are so excited about the stuff we're putting out there that they come back every time. So think about the ways you can link and create some cliffhangers in the posts that you're adding. So that's a really great way, again, to keep your batching message similar if you're doing this all at once. Tracy, yes, you can shuffle categories. Let's see what I've noticed that pending content usually hits. Yeah, so if you shuffle a category, then you do have to shuffle it every time something new goes into that category. So like if you do a bulk upload of a spreadsheet, or if you do something like that, you do have to reshuffle the category. I'll show you how to do that right now. So guys, what Tracy's referring to is right now, if you have the same permissions set on all of the content in your library, as well as all of the time slots on your schedule, Edgar's going to share the same post out to each of them. So on the schedule here, you'll notice that you have all of these different abilities to check off what accounts this time slot has permission to send to. If all of these are checked off, and in that category, you also have all the permissions checked off the same, Edgar will send the same post to each and every social network. This is great for new blog posts. This is great for new content. However, if you'd like to have Edgar send a different post from that category to each of these networks, you can shuffle your category to achieve this, and that's going to be on the category level here. So when I click the categories, you'll notice I have this little double-crossed arrow here. And if I shuffle this category, when Edgar hits that time slot, he'll choose a different post from within that category to send out to each of the networks attached to that time slot. So if you're thinking that your community typically checks your Twitter and your Facebook and your Instagram around the same times, shuffling your category can be a really great way to make sure they're seeing different updates from you and they're getting different value. They're getting to know your brand in different ways. So again, it's totally personal preference, whether you leave categories shuffled or unshuffled. Like I said, a lot of people will leave like their newest blog posts unshuffled because they want to get those out. They want to bump that traffic to them as quickly as possible. But then perhaps if you have a different category that's more of your older blog posts, you could shuffle that in order to get those out to your networks at different times. So totally up to you how to do it, but it is a great feature. As I said, if you do add a lot of content to a category, you will want to come back and reshuffle it once you do that to get a really great mix. The first time you shuffle, I also suggest clicking on this a few times, 2 or 3 times, to get a really great variety of shuffle going on. Good question. Cool. So coming back into it, thinking about ways that you can create that episodic content. So think about a message that you want to share with your community and how can you break that apart into 2 messages to get that curiosity for people wanting to come back more. Cool. So engagement is everything on social media these days. That the algorithms are determining what type of content is the type of content they're going to serve up. So what it is on Facebook specifically is what they refer to as meaningful engagement. So that's not just likes anymore. That's going to be more comments between people on that page. That's really, really driving what the algorithm is serving up. So every post that we're adding in, I want you to think about how you can make it so people are really compelled to write on it, to have conversations between people. After all, it is social media, so we want to focus on keeping the social in social media. And I want you to really stop being insecure, and I want you to really make sure that even if you're not getting a ton of comments on your posts currently, that you really do get these questions out there. And as you start to build your community, you'll see more and more people are going to start replying to it. Let's see, we have a question. Oh, it looks like Maura's got it. Cool. So it does take a ton of time to build trust with communities. This doesn't happen overnight. So have some patience, have some grace with yourself so that you can know that these are going to pay off. And the ability of Edgar to recycle that content for you, that question that might not have been answered, don't worry about it. It will get answered eventually. So guys, if you have some time right now, if you can pop on into Google, you can just go ahead and Google search things like icebreaker questions or good interview questions. Stuff like that is really gold for adding questions into social media. And they don't have to be industry specific. You know, a good interview question is just a great get to know you question, a great question in order to make your community feel like they're a part of it. And when it comes down to it, people buy from people. And the more you can have those one-on-one relationships, the stronger your social media is going to be. So I suggest going out, like I said, Googling those questions and popping into Edgar to add them. One other way that makes this really nice is, you know, you want to make sure that you're communicating to people to persuade them that you're a real person behind your brand. And if you find a bunch of questions that you really love, what you can do is copy and paste them all into Edgar. Or if you have a spreadsheet of questions, you can also go ahead and upload a spreadsheet with our importer function. So in Edgar, our importer function is right next to that RSS feed as well. And it's going to be in this import section. So as you guys are Googling your questions, go out there, get your icebreakers, your interview questions. If you put them in a spreadsheet, you can click on this import file button here. And what you're going to want to do is the first column in that spreadsheet is just going to be the question or the inspirational quote or the tip, whatever your status update you have there is. The second column is going to be the category you'd like it to go into. Upon uploading it, Edgar will prompt you for the account connections. And guys, it is a rock star way to get a bunch of things into the library quickly. So go out there, Google some questions, get them in a spreadsheet, and get them into Edgar. Like I said, engagement is the new game in social media. And the more that you can have your community know that you're a real person behind it who speaks back to them, the more you're going to get rewarded by the algorithms. And if people are commenting on your questions, it's also a signal to the algorithms that hey, they want to see more from this page. So it's more likely they're going to serve up your promotional posts. It's more likely they're going to serve up your other posts. So, you know, if you're a travel agency, again, you can ask, what's your dream vacation? Where do you want to go for a family vacation? Get people imagining these things that might have to do around your industry, or just ask questions about the people themselves. So a variety of different ways to go with that. One of the best companies that I like to give an example for questions is eHarmony. They do great on getting creative. You know, you can do a fill in the blank question to really help people know that all they have to do is type one word in to engage with your posts, so they're not kind of overwhelmed by it. Other ways of doing this is, you know, an A/B choice. Do you like A or B better? Get an emoji response. You know, tell people like to put your favorite emoji in if you agree with this statement. Stuff like that. Can really help people answer your questions without being too nervous that it's going to take a ton of time, as social media is a pretty fast-paced space these days. Questions really do help create this variety. You know, you can see here in this post here by Sandals Resorts, this is a tough one, ocean or pool. This is such a great, easy social media post because people are going to want to respond to it. They have strong opinions about it probably, and it's also getting people thinking and attached to the idea of what their product or service serves. And guys, questions are great too, because I want you to, again, think about this, keeping social in social as being at a dinner party. If you're sitting at a dinner party next to someone and the first thing they do is start to sell you on their product, start to try to get you to hand them $300 for a product or service, you're not going to do it. You want to build that repertoire. You need to build that trust with them before they present you with that. And questions can be huge for doing this. So start Googling those questions. Hopefully you have been this whole time. If you have trouble uploading your spreadsheet, go ahead and email support@meetedgar.com. And really, like I said, have this building trust in mind to know when you have those personal connections with people, it is such a great way to get that trust so that when your sale time does come, it is so much more elegant. Entertainment. So again, I want you to think about ways you can diversify your content, of course, when you're batching it, and maybe consider a day of entertainment batching. So block out 2 hours on your calendar to get into a goofy, funny space to add some entertainment posts. So entertainment posts, you might be thinking, what good are those, Megan? They don't drive any traffic. But they do really great for building brand loyalty because they're going to solve a pain point of boredom and bad moods. They're going to really earn people's trust because that laughter is an instant connection. Think about it in real life. When you tell a joke or when you hear a story and laugh with someone, you guys are building some pretty awesome trust there. Same goes for social media. You know, our brains really are hardwired to get out of pain so much more and to get that pleasure. So provide people hope and really get it. Ryan, yes, there will be a replay of the webinar. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel and it'll also be emailed to you. Barbara, we can't actually upload images in bulk currently. So if you do use the bulk upload, it is for text only. If there are URLs in there, the image will automatically go ahead and populate for like a Facebook preview or Twitter card if they're installed. However, currently you do have to upload images manually. Definitely something we're aware would be an awesome feature. So thanks for bringing that up. We'll pass that on to our team for sure. So entertainment, you know, it really gives us a lot of opportunity in order to build that trust quickly. So maybe right now, take some time to go out there and see what other brands in your industry are doing, or go ahead and Google some really funny ways that you can incorporate jokes into your posts. You can incorporate really viral memes, join the conversation about something that's going on. And it truly helps us understand a reason for posting it. You know, it gives your whole page context of who your brand is. So these are some of my favorite that I just found other brands doing. You know, it doesn't have to be a meme. Moon Pie did something incredibly funny here where they're saying, if you're not enjoying this fine evening by polishing off a tasty moon pie at home, then you've probably had a very active and healthy social life. So props on that. Again, nothing that's going to drive a lot of traffic to their site, nothing that's going to drive a lot of sales, but what a great brand building way, because you see how many retweets and likes this got. it is some of the most shared content on social media these days. So get creative when you're thinking about how you can be really clever with your brand. You know, Edgar has brand guidelines that we're pretty casual. We can be a little bit sarcastic sometimes in the way that we present things. And this is in our brand voice, so humor works well for us. But definitely have your brand guidelines in mind when you're doing this to make sure the tone matches what you guys have established. But really, really great ways in order to connect with your community. Another one of my favorites here, if you close your eyes while holding a warm pancake, it's almost like holding hands with a real human. Again, look at the virality of this, the retweets, the likes. It doesn't have anything to do with driving more customers to their restaurant, but it's A, reminding them that pancakes exist there. So that is pretty great. And B, it's getting that smile and that emotional connection so that when it comes time, people do want pancakes. You know who's on their mind? Denny's, because they've been showing up in their feed. You continue to follow them because they make you smile when you are scrolling through social media. So get your entertainment lens on, batch out a day where you can come in and get creative so you can get into this funny space. A lot of brands are also doing things where you talk back and forth to each other to get funny and creative. You know, if you have competitors out there, or if you have a brand that really helps you out there, think about ways you can kind of get clever so that when you're responding to them, people are seeing your brand voice in there. They're getting really creative with it. So talking back and forth. And if you have your status bashed out, the time you're spending on social media can then be, again, going out there and having those personal connections. Cool. So hopefully you've been thinking how you can get some funny posts in there. Like I said, feel free to go ahead and Google during this time, add your content during this time. If what we're talking about isn't speaking to you, keep asking your questions. Moving on here a little bit further, I suggest creating a category within MeetEdgar that's called inspiration, because like with the funniest post, this is some of the most shared content on social media. This is a screenshot of BuzzSumo, which is showing us how much content is shared from these sites. And you can see that it is a ton. So inspirational content is huge, huge, huge on social media. And again, similar to what I was suggesting with asking questions, go out and Google just some like brainy quotes, or go out and Google a website that has inspirational around motivational things, around other ways that are within your industry. And this is going to be huge for getting shares. As we go and we look about this a little bit more here, you can see some of the amount of virality that these posts get. Over 100 likes for this person on just going in and doing this beautiful background on Canva and putting an inspirational quote that they found on Brainy Quotes out there. And what they do even further is this post is pulling a double duty here, because if you look at the actual text in here, they go ahead and give you the quote, but they also say, read more about my writing here. Again, if it's for Instagram, you might want to do the link in bio move there. But this post is pulling double duty because you're not only getting your community really inspired to know about your thought leadership, but you're also driving traffic back to your site. So this can be an awesome way to get more status updates out of the actual blog post that you've written. So if you've written a blog post, you can combine that with an inspirational quote. You know, as you're thinking about the ways you scroll through and consume social media, you know that images grab your attention so much more. So you want to get that image out there as well. So this is kind of the greatest post that you can kind of create out of inspirational posts is driving traffic, but not all of them should be traffic drivers. You do want to just have some sort of inspirational quotes that way. And I always also suggest maybe thinking about the consistency that you can create with these and making a category that's like Motivational Monday or Wisdom Wednesday and adding your sort of inspirational quotes that way. So as you're Googling, pop into the chat here if you're having trouble finding inspirational quotes for a certain industry. We can definitely help out with that. And we'd love just to know, again, what you're struggling with so we can offer advice going along here. Other ways that you can really use inspirational quotes is to find some e-cards. Again, Googling it, doing a Google image search of it. A ton of them do pop up here. And this one I love because it's being relatable. Things that are relatable on social media are going to do so much better than anything else because, again, keeping the social in social. So you can see what Social Media Examiner did here is be honest. Has this ever happened to you? And it is such a great way to get this virality going, because you can see this received over 88 shares. That is something that's awesome, because people are saying, oh my God, I know someone just like that. I'm going to share this with them. And guess what? They've now become a part of your marketing brand. Your message is getting out through their brand evangelism. You've resonated with a great message. So think about ways that you can get really clever. You can go ahead and not only do text-only inspiration, but you can get these memes to add in as funny and inspirational things as well. Great use of tagging is also available when you're adding inspirational quotes into Edgar. Again, you can add these as photos, as texts, stuff like that. And if you're building a community on social media, which we hope you are, tagging people is a really great way to know that you're giving the goodwill of sending out their content. So you can see in the daily worth here, they went ahead and got a quote from Cindy Gallup, and they put it on a beautiful background, their logo right there in the corner. If you are making Canva backgrounds, this is a great strategy to have your logo on that background, because again, this inspirational content is shared so much that your logo will be shared along with it, which is awesome. But you can see here, they tagged her in it so that she has the ability to know, like, awesome, you've got a great brand here that's really kind of resonating with your message. So think about, if you are doing quotes from people, consider tagging them on Twitter, consider tagging them on Facebook, and it'll be kind of like that goodwill that maybe they'll share some of your information. They'll know about your brand in the future. Cool. Telling stories with quotes. So this is really great for social proof and testimonials. So as you're searching for quotes and stuff to add to Edgar, think about the ways you can get quotes from your clients even. Create a category in Edgar and call it testimonials. And this is, again, because people really want to know and trust that your brand has worked for someone else. So testimonials are going to be that social proof that might get someone who's on the fence really pushed over. You know, think about the ways that you can ask your current power users, you know, what did it feel like when you were pulling out that credit card in order to purchase my service or purchase my product? And have them explain their story so that other followers can know, okay, great, I was in the same place and this worked for them, so it's going to work for me. So I love what they've done here with telling a story, getting all of that information out there, but also having a face behind it. So you can see in this image that they created here, along with the quote, a personalized face is huge, just to remind people that other people out there are using this product or service. So if your community is really willing to help you, think about ways you can quote some inspiration from others to get that personal connection and that social proof. All right, guys, hopefully you've gone and searched some inspirational quotes and started adding them to Edgar. Again, creating a category separately for them. If you do that, can you just kind of pop into the chat here and let me know if you guys have any other questions about inspirational quotes? Were you able to find some okay? Go ahead and let us know there. All right, cool. I'll take that as a yes. So we'll move on to your promotional posts. So after you have added your inspirational posts and your questions and all these kind of brand building, we can't forget to promote our service either. So as you're going throughout your promotional posts, you want to give them, your followers, some context. You want to give them value. And that's going to be creating things like free PDF downloads, stuff like that for them in order to really get that value out so that when your promotional post comes up, it's really easy for you to sell because you've given them so much value, they'll pay attention to it. What I like to suggest doing is following the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your posts should be these inspirational ones, these blog posts, these valuable tips, and then 20% should be more promotional. No one wants to follow a feed that's just sale, sale, sale. They want to get value from it when they're on there. So as you're starting to develop some of your promotional posts, if you've created this loyal following, people will often follow your call to action. You've given them that. They'll usually do what you've asked them to do if you've given them your value and you've gained their trust. So developing some some promotional posts here, you want to make sure that you add some urgency and some time boundness to these posts. You want to make sure that they have a call to action that doesn't give people a reason to mull it over, think if your product or service is right. You want to get that act now language in there to get people to really follow your call to action. we're really more likely to internalize or adapt a behavior that we think the outcome is really positive and achievable, and you're going to get there quickly. So think about ways you can get people to their first win with your product and outline that feature. Focus on one thing this month when you're batching your promotional updates. One feature, one benefit, and create a bunch of them around that, so that as these promotional posts start to come into your feeds, people are seeing that message, it's being reminded of them, and they know that it's going to be achievable with your product or with your service. You always want to kind of filter this through thinking when you write your promotional posts, okay, what if I was the recipient seeing this post on social, what am I going to do next? And filter it through that lens to make sure your call to action is either leading to your blog, it's leading to your sales page, it's leading people to sign up for a call with you, whatever your service or product's goals are. As you're doing this too, this is one of my favorites here. This Mucinex is probably not a brand many people would think to follow, but guys, they have over 10,000 followers. And that's because they do really funny things with their promotional posts. And one thing that they do really well is personify the problem. So as you're starting to get your promotional posts, think about ways you can personify a problem. So they've created this little monster that their product can beat. And this is because it goes back to the storytelling. So everyone wants to see the good guy win. Think about the ways that all the great books are always good versus evil. Think about the evil that your product is going to help solve and really personify what your product is going to do to be the good guy in that story. It's kind of like this hero's journey, if you've ever heard that term before. These work so well for promotional posts. So think about ways you can personify it. Here at Edgar, we do things like we'll personify the algorithm, the big bad algorithm. How do you combat that? You have consistency in your feeds. You have a stream of social media updates that are speaking right to your community, because your community is what is going to combat the big bad algorithm. If they are telling Facebook by liking and commenting and sharing your posts that your posts are valuable, that algorithm is going to serve them more. So you have beat it. So think about anything. I know it can be kind of hard if you're having trouble with this. Go ahead and pop it in here. Sarah, so YouTube can actually create cards within this. I believe there are some settings in YouTube that you can establish if you want it to be like a small square or the big one here. But if you add a YouTube link into Edgar, it will share as a YouTube preview. Another cool thing you can do with YouTube specifically, guys, is Edgar does allow you to add in a YouTube channel as an RSS feed. And let me grab you really quickly here how you can do that if you want to. If you guys have a YouTube channel, definitely go ahead and do this. But in that RSS feed section that we looked at, you can put this URL in here. This one is going to be for your channel, or this one is going to be for a playlist. So if you have a YouTube channel, or if you find a YouTube channel you'd like to go ahead and send to your pending content, this right here is going to be what you're going to add to the RSS feed. And that way, Edgar, again, checks those RSS feeds every 24 hours. And we'll go ahead and pull in whatever video is there. So all you need to do is go ahead and replace that last section with the channel ID. Or if you want to find a playlist, you can go ahead and add this one with the playlist number there. And that'll automate getting the YouTube videos into MeetEdgar, either to your library or to your pending queue. So going a little bit more here, when we were talking about consistency, I always like to suggest doing daily themes with your categories. It really makes it easier to come up with content for social media as well. So batching it out, you can kind of know, okay, if I'm going to batch out my content for the week, maybe on Mondays, I'm always going to spend an hour adding in motivational posts to my Motivational Monday category. On Tuesdays, I'm going to focus on how I can repurpose my blog posts in order to create a lot of tips for them into my Tip Tuesday category. Or on Wednesdays, I want to go ahead and share Wisdom Wednesdays. So I want to share thought leadership aspect about how I think about our industry. On Thursdays, I'm going to do a Throwback Thursday to go ahead and get some personalized content in there around building up a story, around getting that behind the scenes content into your business, sharing photos from around your office, stuff like that. On Fridays, I'm going to do a Feature Friday to show off a feature of my tool or service. And these things can really help during the batching process, because each day you can spend an hour adding this type of content into Edgar. And it doesn't even have to be that long. Once you get an initial like 10 posts per category into Edgar, and you pop that category on your schedule once, you have 10 whole weeks before Edgar recycles your content. So that gives you 10 whole weeks to come up with more content. It is so easy to get started really quickly in Edgar if you're setting these batching categories up and you're really following that schedule. So again, if you add 10 pieces of content to each of these categories, you put that category on each day once, that's 10 weeks of content that you have scheduled going out fresh. If you don't have time to go in and batch more, you'll know that your feeds are still going to be fed because Edgar will start to recycle from the beginning. And in all reality, 10 weeks later, it's unlikely anyone who saw it the first time will remember. And it's really unlikely anyone who saw it, who did see it the first time will see it a second time, just with the ways the algorithms do work. So this is one of my favorite things to do in Edgar's categories. Categories are unlimited in Edgar, so go on into your categories tab right now. Go ahead and click on that add new category button in the upper right-hand corner and start to create some of these day-specific categories for yourself. So another thing, we looked at this before when the question was asked about day-specific posts, but this is another awesome content generator, and that's going to be to celebrate really funny or unusual holidays. This can be considered a promotional post, the one over here on the right from Sweet Linda's. And they're speaking to National S'mores Day, and they're giving a 25% online discount using the code S'mores. What an awesome way to get a promotional post out there, yet have it seem like a really fun way to do it. Because look at this photo. A, it looks delicious. It's going to grab your attention. And B, it's speaking to what's going on right now. So when you're adding your content, when we looked at that use once and schedule, send, and save option, this is how you're going to do it. So for like a company like MeetEdgar, we're going to probably do something on October 8th because that's National Octopus Day and we want to celebrate our little Edgar. And if you're not sure kind of how to incorporate this in, a great website is daysoftheyear.com. It's awesome. It gives you all these wacky holiday days. And guys, I promise you every day has one. So go ahead and look through it, see which ones would be really great to share with your brand. And go into Edgar again, click add new content, mark it as a use once post, get that schedule, send, and save option from the drop-down menu that's next to the save to library button, and add in some of these day-specific posts. Think about ways you can just celebrate it, and think about ways you can be sneaky with a promotional post like Sweet Linda's did here. Going into seasonal stuff, we went over this a little bit when we looked at how to create a seasonal category and add it and remove it from your schedule. Go ahead and let me know if that was clear in the chat over here. If you guys want to see that again, go ahead and let me know and I can show it. But essentially, seasonal categories really help you do things like create blog posts that are going to join the conversation that's going around in the broader community on Facebook and Twitter. It keeps your feeds really relevant. Okay, I'll do that again, Leah. Thanks so much. Allstate does this really well. You know, this update here, this time of year, salt residue is everywhere. Instead of hitting up the car wash, try this DIY tip for removing salt stains from your car mats. Now, this isn't going to help Allstate sell anything, but look how many shares this got. This got over 40 shares because it's a conversation that's going on in the wintertime that you know everyone can relate to, and everyone doesn't want to spend money actually going to a car wash every week. So a DIY tip is awesome. So these shares are providing this valuable content out to their community, and then their community members, again, are becoming part of their marketing team by resharing this out on their own page or sharing it to other people who might have this problem. So as you're setting this up here, let me show you one more time how you're going to do this, is going into your Edgar account and going to your categories tab. So this is where you're creating all those categories, your weekday ones, your like motivational Monday, stuff like that, or your seasonal like summer or winter ones. So you can start creating content in order to join the kind of broader conversation. You're going to click this add new category button here. Right here, just make sure if you're doing the day specific or seasonal ones that you're unselecting this include when selecting random content to post. Random content is chosen by random time slots. We can look at that in a second. You don't have to use those, but just as kind of a safety measure, definitely uncheck this. Go ahead and name this like winter blogs. Go ahead and save that as a category here. When you're adding your new content to Edgar, you can do this at any time of year. You can go ahead and batch it out in the summertime so you're ready when winter season comes along. check off the accounts you'd like it to go out to, go ahead and locate that winter blogs category and go ahead and enter your text here and save it to your library. Then once it comes time for that season to roll around, pop into your schedule over here, and you're gonna go ahead and pop that wintertime category on when you'd like those posts to send out. So click in here, go ahead and locate that wintertime category. Go ahead and click save. And now you'll know Edgar will share in that last in, first out rotating order for as long as this category is on your schedule. So you can get that great ability to repurpose your evergreen content. Once the winter season's over, pop back into your schedule, make like a little calendar event in your Google Calendar so you don't forget to do this, and click on delete. And those can be used again for the next season that way. Another thing you can do for content that maybe you don't want to have as a whole category on its own is you can also expire this content automatically. So if you wanted to safeguard, if you're afraid that you're going to go ahead and forget to delete that category from your schedule, you can also use this advanced settings drop-down menu here, and you can put an expiration date. So what this will do is Edgar will keep it in that last in, first out rotation until this day and time is reached here, at which point he'll automatically go ahead and retire it, not to use it again. So a great safeguard if you wanted to go ahead and make sure that none of the content goes out. You can always unexpire it later. If everything in a category is expired, but that category is on your schedule still, Edgar's just gonna skip the time slot, so you don't have to worry about leaving it there if you don't want. So I did say we were going to look at the random time slots too. If you guys haven't used them yet, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to. But what random time slots do is regardless of category, they're going to send an update out. So if you can create some random time slots within Edgar here, you'll notice one of the first options is random here. You can click on save. And that's going to, regardless of category, send out updates. So if you wanted to just add in some random posts in there just to make sure it's going out at times you know your audience is online, that's a great option. And then you can kind of hone in on the categories they're really responding to at a later date. But again, that's why you want to make sure you do uncheck that random checkbox when you are adding the content in. Cool. So hopefully that's clear. Let me know in the chat if you still have questions about seasonal content there. And like I said, it's a really great way to join the conversation and get your own post shared a lot more. So think about ways you can create tangential content. For example, obviously Edgar writes a lot about social media. We're a social media company, but we also write a lot about remote work, and we also write a lot about efficiency tips within your business. And that tangential content is really great for getting us more and more people to our blog, because even if they're not interested in social media, maybe someone has shared a remote work piece with them. And then along the line in a couple months, maybe then they need a social media tool, and Edgar will be in their head because they know they got that value from us regarding the remote work. So stuff like that is really, really cool. So a send now post. So scheduling your content out in advance is really great so that it gives you time in order to join the conversation going on right now. And Edgar has a cool feature in order to do this to all of your platforms at once. So you don't have to spend time creating the post for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for Twitter, all separately and logging into all of those. Because when you log in, it's most likely you're going to get distracted scrolling through that feed. I know I do. So doing this through Edgar can be a really great time saver. So here on ABC News, you can see this is one of my favorite posts to share as an example of this. They did a 360 tour of a winter storm that was dumping so much snow. Obviously, this is a great thing people want to see. Events like this are really popular in order for people to share and comment on and really join in the conversation. So how you're going to do this in Edgar to make sure you can share out to all of your social networks at once, and again, not have to actually log into each of them and do this, is similar to the way we did the posts for the day specific. So when you click to add new content from the upper right-hand corner here, you're gonna go ahead and see that you can mark off which accounts you want this to go to. So the post you're crafting can go to all of these at once. You're gonna go ahead and write the post here. And then under the Save to Library button, with the arrow, you can see it says Send Now and Save. So by clicking this, Edgar will send this update out a minute later. He'll send it to all of the networks over there you've checked off, and then he'll save it to your library. So if it's something that you'd like to go back into the rotation in your posts, it'll be put to the end of the line in the category and start resharing based on your weekly repeating schedule. If it's not something you want to be repeated again, like that example from ABC News there, you're going to want to do the same thing of marking it as a use once post, and then you can send now and save. So think about something you can maybe try this on today. Is there an article or something you found? Is there something like a crazy snowpocalypse that's going on here in Denver that you could share a photo of, or share something about your company that's going on today in your office to get that behind the scenes content? Come on in here, click that send now and save, and see how awesome it is to send it out to all your social networks at once so you don't have to log into each of them. So this little arrow here is an awesome way that you can schedule content outside of your weekly repeating schedule to add a little bit more consistency and to add a little bit more variety into your feeds. Cool. So going back into it, after you've tried your send now and save option, let us know if you have questions about that. My last kind of thought here before we go into the Q&A session a little bit more is, again, just every post you're adding in there, make people imagine outcomes. Give people a really great experience here. Imagine that social media marketing is something that people are looking to gain that emotional connection for you, and you'll see your updates resonate so much more. Imagine that these things are really going to create a community where people can really get in there and talk with each other. So the questions, the inspirational posts, stuff like that. Cool, looks like we have some questions. Katie, are these meetings going to be over basic functionality? All right, cool, this is great feedback, Katie. So this is our second one here. So we're not 100% sure how these are gonna progress, so definitely appreciate that. So we'll definitely look over ways we can make that less repetitive, and email us, Katie, if you don't mind, support@meetedgar.com with any other kind of feedback like this. We'd love, again, to do these on a monthly basis and have it be a time that you can come back. So if you do have questions about the app specifically that we haven't answered yet, if Maura hasn't gotten to it yet, or if we missed it at all, if you want to just re-ask your question here, we'll be staying on for as long as you guys are here to answer any of those and to load content with you guys. So again, make sure you're getting in there right now, open another tab in your browser and start adding these types of content into Edgar. Leah, so if you would want to go ahead and edit it for different text within each of those send now ones, you would need to add that as separate content. There's no way to do it on the same post. So if you want that send now, it would still be nice to be in Edgar. So you could just click to add new content, send now to like Twitter and LinkedIn. And if you wanted a different message on Facebook, you could add the content again with a different message and do the send now later. But that's a cool feature request as well. Reporting, Ryan. Yeah, let me go ahead and share the reporting screen again. So reporting in Edgar is going to be done through the history tab. So there's a couple of things you can do here. First, actually, let's go to your settings and show you all what we have here. So there's two things in Edgar that helps with reporting, and that's going to be our link shortener as well as our UTM parameters. So UTM parameters are really helpful if you guys use Google Analytics. What these do is it goes ahead and adds on a tracking code so that when you're in your Google Analytics, you can see the campaign name is going to be MeetEdgar and the campaign medium is going to be social. So you can know how much traffic from your blog is being brought in by social media. You can turn these on or off depending if you use Google Analytics or not, but that's a great way to get some reporting stats coming into your Google Analytics from Edgar. The other thing we do have is a link shortener. So our link shortener ed.gr is great to leave hooked up because that's going to bring the click-through rates right into your history tab. If I click on change here, though, you'll notice you also have a bunch of different options, like not to shorten the links if you'd like to leave them as full URLs, or you can use your own Rebrandly or Bitly account if you like to keep all of that information in one place. You can definitely go ahead and change that in your settings. But in your history tab here, using ed.gr will give you the biggest benefit of being able to sort these columns to see the effectiveness of your posts. So again, coming into your history and clicking on this all-time clicks will sort how many clicks a link has received. So again, we can see some of our more popular blog posts, our more popular shares, because these got the most clicks here. And to dial in a little bit more, you're going to come to this View Performance History button. at which point it'll take you to a page where you can see when those clicks occurred. You can start seeing which variations are going to be the most useful. We're going to show you like which variation got the most clicks versus the least clicks. And you can start to dial in to look at when those variations were sent if you scroll down a little bit more and start to see when your community is most active, stuff like that there. The other thing that I always suggest doing is if you get your weekly reports from Edgar emailed to you, those are also stored in your history tab right here down at the bottom. You can see there are these clickable weekly ranges. And if I click on one of these, it'll go ahead and let me know like how much content I'm sending, how many clicks I got for the week, if I gained or lost Facebook likes or Twitter followers, to give you kind of a bird's eye view here. So I would start looking at those weeks over weeks. We all know social media is a really great experimental field. So if you're able to kind of pop in here and you're able to kind of see if you experimented one week and you gained or lost followers, this can be a really valuable tool to use. So yeah, your reporting is going to be in your history tab here. View performance history is really great. Another thing and another workflow I like to suggest for batching is maybe at the end of your day, setting aside 15 minutes on your calendar in order to see what updates are going to be available that need comments or replies to. And you can do that with this little arrow you see right next to the date. So when I click on this arrow here, it's going to lead me to where I can see the post right on the social network and see if I have received any comments I need to reply to. So this is really great so you're not task switching so much to be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, for 15 minutes, I'm going to go in and personally engage with my community, reply to the comments, see what needs to be taken care of, and just go through your history for that day. And if you do that, you'll keep up with comments and it'll seem a lot less stressful than just doing it on the fly. Cool. So, the YouTube info. Yeah, let me go ahead and get you our help article on that. So right here is going to be our help article that explains how to add a YouTube channel. But it's going to be the exact same way we did it in the RSS feeds. It's just with those special, those kind of specific links that I shared, just replacing the channel ID or the playlist number. And then within Edgar, just come on up to your import tab here and go ahead and put that URL with the channel ID or playlist number in here. Click on Find RSS Feed. And again, you can choose whether you want these to go directly into your library, which means they're eligible to go out in the rotation of your posts, or you can choose to go ahead and send them to your pending queue, which gives you the ability to go in and approve them, to edit them, to add your own commentary, stuff like that. It works the same way. It's checked every 24 hours. And if a new video has been released to that feed within that time, Edgar will automatically pull that over. In the meantime, also, you can do this with things like Pinterest boards. So in that article that I shared there, it gives you the workflow for how to add a Pinterest board or like a Vimeo account into your RSS feed. So it's one of the strongest tools you can use to get a lot of automation and variety in the content that's automatically coming into Edgar. If you guys have trouble adding any RSS feeds, definitely email support@meetedgar.com and we can check it out and make sure those get added for you. Your YouTube ID. So if you go to your YouTube account here and you go to your channel, so you'll just go to youtube.com, click on your little channel icon right up here, click on My Channel. And this right here, this long string of letters and numbers combined, that's going to be your channel ID. So just copy and paste that, and that's what you're going to add to the end of that URL there. The playlist number, if you're doing a playlist one, that's going to be in this playlist. You can go ahead and grab the number by going into a certain playlist, like the social media success one that we have here. And you can go ahead and grab the playlist number from there. So yeah, channel ID or playlist ID, stuff like that. Yeah, glad you're able to add that in now, Jerry. Definitely a cool way of doing it. Our extension also works on YouTube. So like if you're on YouTube, if you're on a video that you want to add, remember that extension, you can just click here. It'll go ahead and populate the title of the YouTube video as well as the YouTube URL here. So a great way to efficiently get random videos that you find on YouTube right into your Edgar library right on YouTube. So definitely take advantage of that if you like to share video content, which I definitely recommend doing because the algorithms are loving video these days. Yeah, so Caitlin, it's everything after the slash. If you're on your own, it might say like view as subscriber after it. So you can see here, this is our channel, and it says this question mark view as subscriber. Go ahead and delete that part. It's going to be all just these letters and numbers, and it's going to be all of that right there, that channel ID there. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad you added the extension, Jerry. Cool. All right, so let us know if you have any other questions. Like I said, I'm going to stay around a little bit longer as you guys do start to add more content. If questions come up, definitely pop them in here. If there's any other kind of workflows you're trying to establish. One other cool workflow that I always like to throw out there for people who work on teams, if you have a VA or anything like that, is you can kind of do something similar that we were looking at with seasonal content in your categories. So you can create a category and you can call it like holding category or drafts category. And you can have your assistant, or you can go in and you can add a bunch of different content into that drafts or holding category in the library. And you can always know that none of that's going to go out as long as you don't put it on your schedule. And then you can go in and you can sort your library with these filters over here on the left. And you can go ahead and select your drafts or holding category. You can go ahead and look through all of them, make any edits that you see fit. And then actually with this bulk edit button that you see in the library here, if I click on this bulk edit button, I'm then able to kind of go in here and I'm able to, again, sort it by your holding category with these filters on the left. So find your drafts category. And bulk edit will allow me then to change the content category with this upper level filter. So click the update checkbox here. Make sure you're doing this with only whatever category you've selected over here though. And then this upper level thing will, this upper level drop-down menu will allow you then to switch the category into a live category on your schedule. You'll scroll down, you'll click on update selected, and it's a great way to get those posts to go live after you've approved them if you're working with someone who wants an approval process. That is definitely one of my favorite ways to do it. This bulk edit section is also really helpful for if you forgot or if you added a new social media account. These upper level social icons here, you can click on them and add and remove the account connections in one swoop. So you don't have to go in and edit all of them, because remember, in order for posts to send out, they do need the connection in the library as well as the connection on the schedule. So bulk edit, really great for changing content category in bulk, as well as adding and removing account connections in bulk. Thanks, Barbara. I'm so glad it's been helpful. Definitely keep your questions coming. I'll stick around a little more. Like I said, go ahead and keep the conversation going with us too. Go ahead and tweet at MeetEdgar or DM us or tag us on Instagram at MeetEdgar. You can use the hashtag ContentBatching Party. Let us know what's been helpful. You know, as we've been going along here, as Katie mentioned, this is our second one. So we're trying to get a feel for how these can be continuously helpful. We'd love to get your feedback on what else you'd like to learn. So maybe next month we can focus on that. So if you can tweet us what you found really valuable about this, if you can tag us on Instagram with your biggest takeaways, stuff like that is really helpful for us to hear. Or of course, email support at meetedgar.com. Like I said, we're definitely hugely aware that adding content and stuff like that is a big time suck. So taking your time out of the day-to-day to come to this webinar is really quite lovely for us. So definitely expressing gratitude for you guys coming. Hopefully you got some content added in today as well. If you're still struggling with kind of ideas for how to do that, reach out to us. All of that stuff is really fun for us to hear. Cool. Caitlin, I changed my RSS feed to a new category, but my pending content. Yeah. So if you do change it afterwards, then it is going to go ahead and stay in the pending. So your best bet for doing this is going to be to approve that content that you want that's in the general category. So don't worry that it's in general. Approve it from pending into the library. So go ahead and hit approve into the library for all the things you want to approve. If it's all of them, you can do this approve all. And then after you've approved it from pending, come back into the library here and click on bulk edit. And from here, you can use the filters over on the left. And one of the filters is for the RSS source. So you can go ahead and locate all of the posts that came in through that source. So regardless of the category they're in. So if they went into your general category, come into bulk edit, locate your RSS source over here. And then you can go ahead and click, like I mentioned, this update button here. Go ahead and switch it into your RSS feed category from general. Scroll down to the bottom and click on update selected. So there's no way to do this from pending, but like I mentioned, approve them into the library. Go ahead and come into bulk edit and sort it by the RSS feed, and that'll show you all of them that are in the general category that are brought over by that feed, and you can switch them into the appropriate category from there. Does that make sense? Thanks. If a mass amount, how do they post to the account? Okay, so if you do import a bunch of them at once, it's going to go in that last in, first out order. So on your schedule, when you put that RSS feed specific category here, you're going to go ahead and place your RSS feed specific category. And Edgar is going to go ahead and hit that category, and he'll go ahead and share out the most recent update. So the last update that was brought in from that RSS feed will be the first one to share out when Edgar hits that category on your schedule. It'll then be put to the end of the line. The next time he hits that category on your schedule, the next update will go out and he'll put it to the end of the line and move along. So he's not going to share them all back to back unless you put that category on your schedule back to back. So go ahead and definitely put your RSS feed category when you want it. Edgar checks it, like I mentioned, every 24 hours. So that newest post that's brought over by the RSS feed is going to be the first post that sends out. If it is like other people's content that you're sharing and you don't want it to be on repetition, as you're adding your feeds too, you can always set these as use once. So if I wanted to only share things from other people's blogs once, when you're adding your feed here, you can click this use once button. And that way, once a update goes out once, Edgar will automatically expire it for all of your RSS feeds coming from that source. So that's another great way of doing it if you don't want them to be repeated based on your schedule. If you have feeds already added, bulk edit will also allow you to mark them as use once if you'd like to do that after the fact. So again, come into this bulk edit section here, go ahead and select the RSS feed source. And you'll notice that, again, from these drop downs here, select the RSS feed. That'll show you all the posts that were brought in by that feed. And then you can check off this upper level checkbox. And then it's just this use once one over here. You can go ahead and mark all of them as use once if you don't want to reshare the curated content as much. But yeah, last in, first out order, depending where you put that category on your schedule. Yeah, so Caitlin, anything in Edgar to go out does need to be in a category specific time slot on your schedule. I'll go ahead, and if you come to our help center here, if you need more help on the schedule, this is a great kind of overview of how those time slots are working, as well as just some really great kind of tips and tricks on how best to do this. So I check that out. And if you're thinking about ways of experimenting with your schedule and stuff like that, we have a great article that gives some schedule here, that gives some schedule specific ideas on how to know when your community is online, just because everyone's community is a little bit different. Cool. So definitely keep the questions coming, guys. Like I said, share your handles with each other so you can kind of keep each other accountable here. Go ahead and let us know on Twitter, on Instagram, what else we can help you out with. If you want us to look over your feeds, to get creative, stuff like that, go ahead and reach out to us there. We will be doing these once a month, so certainly want to make sure that that these are as helpful as possible. If you'd like to come back to more, email us, tweet us, DM us about what other type of content you would really like to see. All right, guys. Hopefully you're loading your content on in there. Let us know what questions are coming up as you're putting your inspirational quotes, getting your blogs attached, all of that fun stuff. And as you're starting to load your content too, remember to reveal yourself in all of these updates that you're putting out there. Some of the best captions aren't about how amazing your images or videos are. They're about something that you didn't know about the person, something behind the scenes about their company. So as you're starting to put in your blogs, your videos and stuff, think about how you can give them context to get your personality in there as well. One of our strongest emails at MeetEdgar is one that our founder, Laura, sends out that's just describing her journey into creating MeetEdgar, as well as introducing you to her family. Stuff like that really gives a great connection with brands. So the more you can kind of establish that connection, the better. So think about the ways each of your kind of blog posts that you're entering in, stuff like that, can have a little bit more context about your personal behind the scenes story. And you'll see a lot better brand loyalty that way too. All right, guys, any other questions popping up? Kaylin, bulk edit is in the library. So if you go to the library from the upper navigation bar in Edgar, look to the right, and there's that bulk edit button. It's like right above all of your posts. And that's going to be where you can add in the used ones. That's where it's going to be where you can change content category, all that fun stuff. So just click on your library tab right up here from the top, and bulk edit will be in the upper right corner right up here, the small button above all of your content items here. Cool. Thanks, Sarah. You have a groovy day too. All right, glad you found it, Kaylin. Cool, guys. Yeah, definitely let us know. We'll stay on here a few more minutes. What other questions are coming up as you're loading your content in here? Working for time, blocking your calendar and stuff out. We'd love to hear which one of these are working. If you'd like to hear other strategies on that or focus more on like app specific stuff, keep us updated for sure. All right, guys. Well, that looks like maybe that's about it for questions here. I'll stay one more minute. If you have any questions as you're loading your content, get them in now. I'm definitely happy to answer them, but really grateful for you guys joining today. Keep us updated. We're doing these on a monthly basis, along with our other skills webinars, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Again, for this one specifically, tweet or DM at MeetEdgar on Instagram or Twitter with the hashtag ContentLoadingParty for any feedback. We'd love it. Caitlin, is it normal for loading to, so if you are loading a bunch of them at once, it might take a while. Don't refresh the page at all, just let it load there. It also depends upon like how image heavy your content is, stuff like that. So it can sometimes take a couple of minutes if you're doing a huge bulk edit there. Same with the imports. If you're using the spreadsheet importer, it might take a couple of minutes for it all. Okay, good. Glad it worked there. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining today. I also want to say thanks to my colleague Maura for helping keep up with all of your awesome questions here. Let us know. Oh, Sarah, do you have a question? No worries at all. You can go ahead and pop it in there. I am happy to get it answered. And guys, remember, there will be a replay that's available on our YouTube channel, as well as emailed to you automatically. And we'd love for you to go ahead and rewatch any parts as you're starting to load your content to get that really strong emotional connection with your community. And also to let us know when you do add 10 pieces of content to each of your categories in Edgar. That's your strongest call to action and takeaway from this webinar today, is to get in there and just get started so you can unpause your queue and start to get some consistency to connect with your tribe, to get your followers to be really excited about joining with your brand. Cool. All right, let's see. If you set the RSS feed to go out daily, do you just add daily time slots with that category? Yeah, so that would be a fine strategy for sure. You could put your RSS feed category every day on your schedule. Edgar does check it, as I mentioned, every 24 hours. I believe it's at like 2 a.m. Eastern time. And if a new post has been brought in from that, that'll be the first post that shares out. So if that's a blog that has daily content on it, that blog post will go out every day there. If the category is empty, like if you set them all to use once, which you might have done, if I'm remembering here, Kaylin, and there's nothing new that blog did release, Edgar will just skip the time slot. So it's totally fine to have that time slot on your calendar every single day. And when Edgar hits it, the most recent one brought out will be sent. That's a really great strategy for making sure you're getting your curated content out every day. Good question. All right, Sarah, I'm not sure if you did have a question you wanted to go ahead and pop in there or not. I'm definitely happy. I'll stay on for another minute if you do. Oh, hey, Angelica. Yeah, we're wrapping up here at the very end. We will be putting the replay on our YouTube channel as well as emailing it to you, so you can kind of go back in and rewatch the part that you did miss. If you have any questions about how Edgar works or anything that we were talking about when you were watching at the beginning, let me know here. We're just kind of loading our content now and getting things going. Sarah, so there will be one of these every month, so definitely keep an eye on your email. You will get emailed the replay, as well as if you go to our YouTube channel here, you can see in Edgar here, on our YouTube channel, if you go down to the bottom here, we have this content batching party one here, and this was the first one that we did. So if you wanted to get a little bit more context around the very first one we did, and I'll be uploading this one by the end of the day today to YouTube as well, so you can check back there. If you want the replay and you don't see it on YouTube or you didn't get the email, just email support@meetedgar.com and we'll definitely get it out to you. In terms of categories, how many is too many? Good question, Sarah. So the categories is definitely dependent upon the ratio of how much content you have in it versus how many times you put it on your schedule. So when you think about that ratio, say you've added 10 pieces of content into your blogs category, and you place that on your schedule twice, you'll know that you have a whole fresh month's worth of fresh content being sent out, just based upon the idea that Edgar will send that last in, first out order. So that gives you a whole month to create new, fresh content, as well as if you don't have time to create it, always knowing that Edgar will recycle through your evergreen content, getting it out to your followers. So it's completely up to you kind of how you would like this content, to how often you would like the content to go out. So I've seen people create a ton of categories. Again, they'll do the day specific ones like your Motivational Monday, your Trivia Thursday, your Wisdom Wednesday, and then they'll have their categories that are more just for their blogs or their curated content. So some people will have up to like 20 categories in there, especially if you're using seasonal ones and day specific ones. Other people aren't as picky or aren't as segmented in that consistency. So they'll have 3 categories: their blogs, their inspirational and funny posts, and their promotional posts, and kind of get that great 80-20 rule that we were referencing before with their categories on their schedule. So 80% of their categories are going to be coming from their blogs, are going to be coming from their value-added posts. And then the other 20% are going to be those promotional posts. So if you're putting like 4 posts a day with each of those categories on your schedule, you're going to want to make sure those first 3 are coming from your categories like your Motivational Monday, like your blog posts, like your tips. And then that last one can be a little bit more promotional. Doesn't have to be in that order, but that's just a great way of thinking about that 80-20 rule and kind of transferring it to the Edgar schedule. So I would say how many categories depends upon how much content you have. So resharing your evergreen content is a really great way to, again, drive more traffic. So if you have a ton of blog posts, it might also be beneficial to create 2 blog post categories, one for blog posts that are really popular, some of your most popular lead magnets, and others that might not be as popular, but are still really great, a great value to your community to share. And maybe that one that has your popular blog post can have fewer posts in it so that they're rotating more often, while your other ones that might not drive as much traffic, or if your Google Analytics is telling you people aren't spending that much time on the page, those can rotate on a less frequent basis. And with the bulk edit, you can always switch content categories quickly there. So it totally depends upon situation, but I would say creating a few categories to get some specific days, as well as a few categories just so you can get that good 80-20 mix in there. And then it all depends on content. If you're seeing stuff not repeat enough that you'd like to be repeated, I would suggest creating more categories to have fewer items in there, or putting that category on your schedule more times. So this flag content thing, I think what you're speaking to is a bug that we had on Monday. This was a bug with a change that Facebook made to their API. If you were getting errors that it was abusive content, that's all been fixed now. It was nothing you did wrong. It was just some communication issue that we had with Facebook's API. So those posts have been reestablished to your queue. There was nothing abusive about them. So that error you can go ahead and clear from your notifications, and those posts will continue to share. You deleted them. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was just a small bug. They should all work again. If you wanted to re-add them to Edgar, it'll be good. Yes, Brenda, Facebook groups is online. So if you haven't yet, I'm going to put a link in here for you. What you actually need to do to connect a group to Edgar is add Edgar in as a trusted app on your Facebook group. And that's going to be right here. This part here is going to be you going into Facebook and actually adding in your Facebook group, adding Edgar into your Facebook group. Once you do that, go back into your Accounts tab in Edgar and refresh your personal profile with that little refresh link that shares. And that's going to be the way that you can go ahead and make sure your group stays connected. If it's coming disconnected after you go ahead and add that in, go ahead and reach out to support@meetedgar.com and we'll take a look. But that should do the trick. You just need to make sure you go into your group, add Edgar as a trusted app, refresh your personal profile on Edgar in your Accounts tab, and you should be all set. Yeah, not a problem. If you do, like I said, if it comes detached after that, email us and we can do a full permissions reset for you. Awesome. Not a problem, Sarah. Glad that helped there. If you need help loading that content back in, let us know for sure. But yeah, like I said, that was just a funny little bug happening, but it's all fixed up now. So none of your content was actually abusive there. Sorry about that. Cool. Have you guys added some content? Is everything going smoothly here? Gotta love those little emojis. Thanks, Caitlin. All right, Brenna, I have some older content. That was tied to Twitter and Facebook. And then, okay, yep. So per the variations that we were speaking to, Twitter does have to expire those posts right away. Yeah, so what you need to do for these is they'll keep recycling through for Facebook. So they're only expired for Twitter. But in order to reshare those, you do need to go ahead and add in variations to them. So I'm going to share my screen here again real quickly. So in your library here, a great workflow is to come into these filters, go ahead and sort it by the Twitter account here. Go ahead and look at this last one that says has publishable variations, and go ahead and set this to no. And that's going to filter your library to show you all of the tweets you have in here that are completely expired and no longer able to send to Twitter. From here, what you're going to do is click on this little edit button, and you're going to go ahead and see that you have this add variation option in the lower left corner. So you can't actually just resend the same thing. To stay in line with Twitter's terms of service, you need to click on to add a variation. So there's two ways of doing this. If you click on this manually add variation, a second text box will come up where you're able to take this link here, copy it, take this link here, copy it, and you can put it in as a variation. But you just need to alter the language. So you can ask a different question, you can get a different pull quote, anything that's going to make this different in order to stay in line with Twitter's spirit of making it a really authentic community and cut down on spamming and bots. So it's not against their terms of service to share the same link again, like your evergreen content. And as long as you're in the really great spirit of adding value to your community, these variations can just be different headlines, they can be different questions, different thoughts that you've had about the article. Another cool way of reactivating this for Twitter is to use our auto-generate variations, and that's going to be right here. So when I click to auto-generate variations, what Edgar is going to do is pull some different pull quotes from within that article to add as variations automatically to you. Then all you need to do is save this back to your library, and these will go back into the rotation based on your schedule. So the last in, first out order on your schedule holds true for the variations as well. So the last variation you add, this number 5, is going to be the first variation that's sent out. Edgar will then have to expire it for Twitter, or if it's connected to LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, it'll just go to the end of the line, and he'll rotate through these variations. They're not going to be posted back to back. This whole post will be put to the end of the line and then be resurfaced. So just make sure kind of when you're adding these in, if you have any preference on which variation goes out first, that's going to be the last one you add. So in this variation 5 text box here. We have a great blog article that I'll link to for you in the chat right now. This one here is great for brainstorming different ways in order to create effective variations. But yeah, you can't just kind of re-add that same content. You do have to go in and either add it as a new post or add it as a variation to that post. Yep, no problem. All right, guys, so I do think we're going to pop off here, but as Maura mentioned there, email support@meetedgar.com, and we're more than happy to answer any other questions that are coming up as you are starting to add more content into Edgar. Also tweet us, DM us, mention us on Instagram with any feedback you have, any of your biggest takeaways, so we can make sure we're always improving on these. Really appreciate you guys coming today, and hopefully we see you next month. Bye.